Standing tall on the shores of Lake Ontario, the CN Tower, the world's tallest freestanding structure, looks down on the attractions of Toronto, the Sky Dome, Yonge Street, Queens Quay, and Exhibition Place, known as the X, site of round 11 of the PPG Kart World Series. You are on the grid for the Molson Indy. On a beautiful day at the X, welcome to round 11 of the PPG Kart World Series, the Molson Indy. We are on the grid as final preparations are made in anticipation of what should be a tremendous race. Hi everybody, I'm Bob Varsha. The grandstands will soon be packed with a record crowd of more than 70,000 fans who no doubt had come here to Exhibition Place hoping to see a Canadian win this race. After all, Canadians stand first and second in the championship in Paul Tracy and Greg Moore. So imagine their surprise in final qualifying for this race when Scotsman Dario Franchitti, driving for St. Louis-based trucking magnate Carl Hogan, went out a perfectly timed lap on new tires, a blistering mark that stood up till the end of the session, and then car owner and driver hugged. Franchitti's first career pole in the series. He's standing by with Marty Reed.
58.6 seconds, 105 plus miles an hour, and that smile has yet to come off your face, Dario. A great run yesterday. And I don't know if you know this, but no less a person than Dan Gurney said, I watched that, and it was impressive.
Well, that's good. You know, that's a nice sort of thing for coming from Dan. He's a great driver. You know, I've read a lot about the things that he's done, and it means a lot for people to comment. Mario Andretti came up today and said the same thing, and it does mean a lot. And you know, I'm glad for the team here at Hogan Racing and the rest of the guys, and we did a good job yesterday. Now,
third quickest in the morning warm-up, but you stopped 10 minutes early. You didn't get into the last-minute duel. What about the race setup? You feel confident?
I feel very confident. I think the car is pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's a very low-grip circuit here, so I think you've got to get it as good as you can and see what happens. It's going to be all about tires and fuel today.
Bob, there's a lot of Scottish flags flying around down here. They're rooting for this man to take it home.
No question about it, Marty. There were a lot of smiles up and down the pit lane when Dario Franchitti became the first Scotsman since Jackie Stewart back in the mid-60s to sit on an IndyCar pole position. But that's just one of our stories here on the grid. Let's take a look at the points championship. Paul Tracy leads fellow Canadian Greg Moore, with Gilles de Ferran, who has yet to win a race but has scored more points in the last 5 races than any other driver in the series. He is third, followed by Michael Andretti, Alex Zanardi, and Scott Pruitt. Now let's meet our points leader. He's standing by with Gary Gerald.
A man who has won here in Toronto, a man who is familiar to all the pressures of this championship season, and a man who's absolutely been harried because he comes back to his hometown. And the media attention, the fan attention has been phenomenal. But you've got a championship that you're trying to protect, and I know that it's been tough, frustrating to get a handle on your car. Are you happier after this morning session?
Well, the car was, you know, marginally better, but we're still having a tough time with the Penske car, trying to get the thing under us. But you know, it's a long race, and there's always a lot of attrition, and you know, we've got to keep it off the walls and have a good, clean, smart race, and I think we can finish in the top 5. But I think if we can get this car qualified up front, then we can run up front. We've shown that at you know, the last few races at Cleveland and Portland. We're there at the front, but you know, it would help if we could be up there at the start.
The success you had on the ovals would seem to indicate that that chassis is better adapted to ovals than it is on the street circuits. Is that just a correct general assumption?
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much knew that coming in. I mean, we expected to do well on the ovals. We expected last year to do well on the ovals. We've seemed to struggle on the road courses, just can't seem to find the right combination. And you know, we've tried about every combination we know, and you know, maybe it's on the drawing board. Maybe it's something we need to look at for next year's car that John Travis has designed, and maybe that's what the answer is.
Well, Paul Tracy's had success in Toronto. He'll come from deep in the field. The guy who's dominated right now is with Danny Sullivan.
Well, thanks. This is a race that I always wanted to win. I was close many times, but I never won it. Now, a guy that has dominated it in the 90s, Michael Andretti, you've won this thing 5 times. Was there any common thread in those wins?
No, I wish there was, because I try to make that same thread common, but really, no. I just, every win was a little bit different in its own way.
Well, now you said in Cleveland that this is where the championship really starts. You've got to score points. You had a disastrous day in Cleveland. Do you still feel you're in the hunt for that championship?
Well, I think we're definitely in the hunt, but you know, we cannot afford any more races like Cleveland or Portland for that matter. You know, this is a very important race for us. We have to score points.
Well, good luck for you for the number 6, and up to you, Bob.
All right, thank you, Danny. We're going to take a break, and when we return, we'll meet the most recent winner on the PPG Kart World Series, Alex Zanardi, when we return to Ontario. Stay with us. Coming up tonight on ESPN2, nitro-fueled excitement from Vandermeer Speedway in Denver, Colorado. It's the NHRA Mopar Parts Mile High Nationals tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 3:30 Pacific on ESPN2. Welcome back on the grid for the Molson Indy here at Exhibition Place in Toronto. Some of the other stories we've been following this year on the PPG Kart World Series include chassis. At our most recent race at Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland, Ohio, Lola, that once championship-winning and proud constructor fallen on hard times, lost yet another driver as Andre Ribeiro with the Tasman team moved from Lola to a Reynard chassis and saw immediate improvement in his performance. The tire story has also been going thick and heavy here in Toronto. Last week, Firestone won in the hands of Alex Zanardi, while a fleet of Goodyear-shod cars followed the Italian to the finish line. Let's get down to Gary Gerald, who's standing by with the winner from Cleveland.
And what a show he put on at Cleveland. Alex Zanardi, that charge through the pack was sensational. And then in the excitement, those donuts you were spinning out there had everybody, the crowd, your crew. You came out of the cockpit absolutely screaming. Have you ever had more fun in a race car?
Yes, on Monday I had more fun watching the race in television because I knew the result. But no, definitely it was a great weekend. And only problem I'm facing right now is that the fans are expecting me to do that every time I win a race, and my crew is expecting that not for me to do that again because I wear out my equipment. So I have a lot of question marks in my mind. What am I gonna do next time I win a race?
Well, today, I know he likes to start on the front row. You're a little bit back, but you were fast this morning, so you must be happy about the way the car is working.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was amazed by how well the car was working this morning with a full load, and actually I'm regretting right now that we didn't try it as a change yesterday for qualify. I think if we would have filled the tank with gas, we would have maybe gone a little bit faster. I mean, this morning we set a time that would have put us 4th in the grid. Right. So obviously the car is working fine, and we're very confident.
Well, one of the keys to his victory, of course, last week, the performance of the Firestone tires. My colleague Marty Reed is standing by with one of the tire representatives.
Actually, I got both of them. This is the most dangerous job since refereeing Tyson Holyfield. That's why I've got the earmuffs. I don't have to worry about my ears getting bit off. But Joe Barbieri from Firestone, first off, you got 8 out of 10 in the top 10, including the pole. But the big question is, what about the long run?
Long run, we're not concerned at all. A lot of the tires, even in the qualifying and practice runs, went over 41 laps on a set of tires, so we're not concerned at all about that.
All right, let me switch over to the counterpart here, Michael Crawford from Goodyear, marketing manager. You just heard that. You believe that, and can you catch him?
Oh, we're going to catch him. We've got a great tire for over the long run. You're going to look at a first gas stop. We're going to be making some moves up through the field.
Well, guys, it's going to be one of those things that we're going to be keeping tabs on down in the pits, and I don't know. We're going to wait to see this thing go. Danny?
Well, Marty, thank you very much. Of course, those guys got to give that story. They've got to say that. That's their job, and that's what they believe. But the battle so far is in favor of Firestone. The question is, what happens on a long run? This is a slippery surface we've seen with those concrete patches. It's going to be a problem. And what are they going to do 20, 25, 30 laps in there as that fuel load gets lightened? This place also throws out a lot of debris off the side, a little bit of rubber there. It's going to be a long day, and you're going to have to manage your tires well. Gary?
Well, we're back here with the Tasman team, and Adrian Fernandez is a driver who has really had perhaps more than your share of frustration. He comes back to Toronto having won this race, your first victory for kart last year. Now, however, with the Lola chassis, I know this has been really difficult because it's hard to get a comfortable feel. How tough this weekend?
Oh, it's very tough because unfortunately we cannot do anything with the Lola chassis. It's not getting better. It's actually, everybody's getting better and we are getting worse. And we're so far that this is a nightmare, to be honest. It's very frustrating.
Well, while it's a nightmare for this man, his teammate who just walks in, Andre Ribeiro, has been blessed because Steve Horn has been able to provide you with a Reynard chassis, which seems to be the chassis of choice, at least for the moment, in kart. And obviously, your performance has been impacted by that. Terrific starting position today.
I think so, and this definitely proves that the all the problems we had since from the beginning of the year, and the situation that Adrian is now is definitely only because of the chassis. This proves that we're still very competitive, both drives, teams, engines, tires, but unfortunately we made the wrong choice on the beginning of the year, and we paid quite a lot this year.
Well, it'll be fun to watch you both regardless today. Wish you well.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, Bob?
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll take another break, and when we return, we'll meet our featured team of the week, Forsyth Racing and young Canadian superstar Greg Moore. Stay with us. Welcome back to Exhibition Place in Toronto, Canada, where you are on the grid for round 11 of the PPG Kart World Series, the Molson Indy. Earlier this year, Canadian driver Greg Moore wrote his name in the history books as the youngest driver in PPG Kart World Series history at age 22, winning on the short oval at Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A few weeks later, he doubled the feat, winning at Belle Isle in Detroit. A lucky win for Greg Moore, but it puts him second in the championship. He drives for Jerry Forsyth, who made a big impact on the series back in 1983 with driver Teo Fabi, who sat on pole for the Indy 500 in his very first attempt. Then Jerry Forsyth stepped away from the series for a few years, came back in '94 with young Greg Moore, who rewarded his car owner this year with 2 victories. Let's get down to Gary Gerald standing by with Greg.
Greg Moore is the object of so much attention anytime you race in Canada. I'm sure it's like a dream come true for you.
It's really nice to come back to Canada, you know, but you know, in about 15 or 20 minutes, you know, you kind of forget that you're in Canada and just put your head down and do your job. And you know, it's difficult sometimes being in Canada because you're so busy, but you know, get the extra support from all the fans, and it's really something special.
And there's been all this talk about the fact that you're going to jump and go to Formula One right away, and you've been answering that question all weekend. But for the record, tell us what your plans are.
I'm here for quite a long time. You know, my dream was always to race Indy cars and to race against the best in the world, like Michael and Al and you know Paul and those guys. And you know, maybe Formula One in 5 or 6, 7 years, but I want to win this championship a couple of times. And you know, the first and foremost thing, I want to try and win this Toronto Molson Indy.
He's still a young pup, and this series is delighted to have him. Thank you. Let's go to Marty.
I'm with the guy who's got to manage this player's team, Tony Brunetti. And Tony, the decision early in the year to scrap the Lola, go with the Reynard, proved to be the right one, but it did put you behind the 8 ball a little bit early.
Oh, absolutely. You know, the Players Foresight team is just looking for an advantage at the beginning of the year. We had the only Lola Mercedes Firestone package going, and you know, had that package been successful like we thought it could be, you know, there's a good chance that it could have been a runaway for us. So we were looking at that and hoping that panned out. Unfortunately, it didn't, and you know, we essentially missed 6 months of testing, you know, which is a big deficit to come back from. But the whole team has done a great job, including Greg, getting used to the Reynard again. And Reynard's done a fantastic job providing us with a car that, you know, has been essentially trouble-free.
Well, there's another member of this team that Gary's caught up with. Gary?
Neil Mickelwright is the Vice President of Racing Operations for Players that encompasses not only the IndyCar team, the Atlantic team, the Indy Lights team. You may be one of the busiest guys behind the scenes in all of this racing. How do you manage to juggle all these responsibilities?
I'm very fortunate that I have the backup and support of some very, very good managers. Each team has its own manager, and then they report to me. So I rely on them heavily, but we make it work. We have a very solid organization.
On the IndyCar scene with Greg Moore, we were just talking to him about his future. Does it scare you, this talk about him going to Formula One?
No, I'm not concerned about that. I don't believe that there's any truth in it. I think that obviously any time that a driver is as talented as Greg, there's going to be a possibility of people trying to reach out to him. But he's told me, and I believe him, that his intentions are to stay in IndyCar racing for the foreseeable future. And he's still only 22 years old. I mean, he can do something else for another 5 years and still be quite young to go into Formula One if that's what he wants to do.
He's just a young whipper. Marty?
Yeah, I've got the guy who has been the biggest supporter of Greg Moore, his dad, Rick, and you're one of those guys who has really, I mean, you've supported your son from the start on this thing. You've got to be bubbling with pride today.
Oh, sure, you can't help it. You know, it's really past the idea of a dream. You know, when you start racing, you could never imagine we could have been this successful, and just absolutely outstanding.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel the pressure that I know he's feeling with all the home country fans here in Toronto?
I think I feel it more than he does, because I'm trying to, to manage his time as best we can, and it's really tough. I feel the pressure every weekend.
Well, we'll let you go sweat it out a little bit longer. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Marty.
Bob?
All right, thanks, gentlemen. The minutes continue to tick away before the command to kick the tires and light the fires here at the Molson Indy. We'll be back with more from Exhibition Place. In fact, we'll take you around Toronto when we return. The next round of the PBG Kart World Series will be the second running of the US 500 from Michigan International Speedway. Last year, the series visited Michigan twice, a 2-mile oval that is packed with action. We will be back for the US 500 from Michigan International in Brooklyn, Michigan, and you will see it all on ABC Sports next Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there for the US 500 from the wide open spaces of Michigan. Here's a look at the starting grid for today's race. The Molson Indy here in Toronto. On the pole for the first time in his career, Scotsman Dario Franchitti with Englishman Mark Blundell alongside. The last time a Scotsman sat on the pole, it was an Englishman next to him, Jackie Stewart and the late Graham Hill. On row 2, Bobby Rahal and Michael Andretti with 6 wins in this race between them. Row 3 will be Scott Pruitt, who won on the streets of Surfers Paradise, Australia this year, and Alex Zanardi, who won a week ago in Cleveland. Row 4 will be Andre Ribeiro and Raul Boisel. Moving to row 5, Greg Moore, who will be the darling of this Canadian crowd, and Mauricio Gugelmin from Brazil. On row 6, Gilles de Ferran, third in points, and Brian Herta, who has been running well in practice and qualifying. Row 7, Christian Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy, another Canadian and the points leader. Row 8 will be Jimmy Vasser, the reigning series champion, still looking for his first win, and Walter Salas from Brazil. On row 9, Al Unser Jr. and Jourdain from Mexico. On row 10, Parker Johnstone and P.J. Jones. On row 11, Patrick Carpentier, the third of the 3 Caballeros from Canada, and Adrian Fernandez, the defending champion here in Toronto. On row 12, Max Pappas and Richie Hearn. On row 13, Juan Fangio II, driving for Dan Gurney's All-American Racers, and Arndt Meyer from Germany. And on row 14, Hiro Matsushita and Dennis Vitolo. Now, as Gary Gerald learned earlier, there are many attractions here at Exhibition Place, including some of the all-time greatest seats in racing.
In all the years that we've been coming to racetracks, I don't know if we've ever found a cooler way to view a race than what we found right here in Toronto. The title sponsor, Molson, had a promotion involving radio stations that rewarded 25 lucky race fans throughout the province of Ontario with an opportunity to come to the track, visit this high-rise box here that has a grand view overlooking the pit and paddock area, and more importantly, look at the comfort that you get to sit your body in. They've got these reclining chairs here. You've got headphones with TV monitors. You can listen to the public address system. You can listen to isolated crews talking on the racetrack and their radios. You've got food, beverage. They've had their hotels, transportation, everything taken care of. So I don't know how you can top this. So they're going to have to pry me out of this chair. And if I can find the recliner here, I'm just going to put my feet up, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And we'll see you guys in a couple hours. Oh, man, is this good.
Gary, they tell us that we're supposed to take the show to new heights every week. They just didn't tell me how high we were supposed to go. This is the Main Space School of Circus Arts. This is Lori from Boston. And I don't know how I got up here, but I'm supposed to learn how to fly the trapeze. And she told me what I'm supposed to do, but I have a feeling it's not going to work. I've got to get rid of this first. Guys, catch. All right. Rider. Lean forward. Okay. 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 Oh, hey, this bar's heavy. Yeah, I'm gonna lean more forward. Oh.
Hop off and grab the bar.
Okay.
Ready, first time. Hep.
Oh, what is that again?
When I say hep, hop off and grab.
Okay.
Ready? Hep.
Oh.
All right, legs up. All right, good job. Have a look at the
bar.
Okay. Legs up now. Hook your knees. Hook them. Pass them under the bar. And hook them on. That's good.
Under the bar.
I can't get under the bar! Okay, put them on the bar.
I can't get on the bar! Hey!
Well, thanks. I'm here with Carl Hogan, and you've kind of come down from yesterday where you were so emotional after that qualifying. You were crying. You were so happy. What about today?
Well, I think maybe I'm a little bit more firmly planted on the ground today with realistic thing that happened yesterday, but you know, I think it's going to be a tough race today, and we're just sort of concentrating on it, and I guess we've got to get down to business now.
Any problems that you foresee in the race today?
Well, you know, I think the race, it's a lot of tight curves, and you're in second and third gear a lot. You use a lot of fuel, and I think fuel is going to be a factor today with a lot of the cars.
Well, good luck to you today. Bob?
All right, thank you, Danny. Qualifying is one thing, racing is something else entirely. The drivers are on parade, then they will head for the cars. We'll be back with final thoughts from Toronto. Welcome back on the grid here at the X in Toronto, where if your car is not ready, it's too late. The drivers are about to mount up and fire engines as we get set for round 11 of the PPG Kart World Series. As ever, it's time for us now to poll our staff of experts on what they've learned this weekend and what they think it will take to win the Molson Indy. Let's begin with Marty Reed.
Thanks, Bob. You know, we've talked about tires, we've talked about fuel, but we haven't talked about the wheel spin. This morning in the warm-up, Scott Pruitt lost second gear, and a lot of wheel spin coming off these corners. That means we might be seeing a lot of breakage, half shafts, gearboxes. They could play a determining factor as to who finishes first in victory lane. Danny?
Yeah, well, Marty, you keep talking about the technical stuff. I'm worried about the drivers. I think Dario Franchitti is going to be awful strong. My question mark is in the pits. Michael Andretti has been there 5 times. He's going to be there, and the sleeper for me is Bobby Rahal. Gary?
Well, Michael Andretti is the man, as we know, we've chronicled, has dominated, winning 5 times here, so I'm not even going to venture my thoughts. I'm just going to ask Michael, in your mind, the key to winning this race?
I think the real key is, one, is getting a good start and getting in good track position, and then getting good pit stops. Getting in, if you can get into pits first and come out first every time, you're looking good. So, or if you go in second, you got to come out first. That's how you're going to do most of your passing. So I think track position is key.
Fuel management as critical here as at other places?
Probably going to be, up to now, the worst race of the year. So if there's no yellows, it's going to be very interesting in the end.
And how about tire management? Because we saw only 2 good years in the top 10. You're one of those 2 guys.
That's a big key. I don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen with the Firestone Goodyear thing. You know, when we get out there and put a lot of laps on these tires, that's going to be the key.
Going to be fun to see how it all shakes out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Barsha?
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. There you see the motto of the late Jeff Krosnoff. An accident claimed the life of that driver and corner worker Gary Avron 1 year ago. Their memories are very much with us as we prepare to go racing here at the Molson Indy. I'll add my 2 bits right now. Michael Andretti and Bobby Rahal have 14 podium finishes between them in 21 starts in this race. They are a part of veteran teams, and veteran teams do not make mistakes. They react to situations. Michael Andretti says if there's no yellow, it's going to be a very different race. I will almost guarantee there will be a yellow flag. When it comes and which teams and drivers react best to it will determine who will win this race. It should be an exciting race. Tremendous speeds here at Exhibition Place. Coming up next on ESPN2, we have wrestling for you. So if you're a grappler, stand by for that. But if you want to go racing at round 11 of the PPG Kart World Series, join us on your local ABC station at the top of the hour. We will have flag-to-flag coverage of the Molson Indy. A record crowd on hand, a beautiful day for racing here on the shores of Lake Ontario. Will it be one of the veteran drivers like Bobby Rahal or Michael Andretti? Or will someone like Mark Blundell or Dario Franchitti break through to give us another new winner in the PPG Kart World Series? That remains to be seen. We're about to go racing. See you on ABC. I'm Bob for Danny, Gary, and Marty. So long for now from Toronto.
The following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
Call them the Canadian Club. 3 drivers from the north who lead the way in the PPG Kart World Series. Paul Tracy from Toronto rattled off 3 straight victories in the season's first half and tops the point standings, leading to the PPG Cup and a $1 million bonus. Second in the title chase is the pride of British Columbia, Greg Moore, who has won twice and trails his countrymen by just 11 points for the championship. Completing the Canadian domination, freshman IndyCar driver Patrick Carpentier from Quebec has a firm grip on the Rookie of the Year trophy with 7 races remaining. Today, the Canadian Club races on home soil for the first time this year. But to win, they'll have to deal with a man from south of the border, Michael Andretti, whose record on the streets of Toronto include 5 victories. Today, he hopes for number 6 at the Molson Indy Toronto. Towering more than 1,800 feet above Toronto, the CN Tower is the centerpiece. for round 11 of the PPG Kart World Series. Welcome to the Molson Indy. Here at Exhibition Place, known to Torontonians as the X, more than 70,000 fans are expected to turn out. A record crowd, not only for a great race, but to have a great time. There is plenty to do here at the X on race weekend. After 10 rounds of the PPG Kart World Series, here's how they stand. Canadians Paul Tracy and Greg Moore 1 and 2 in the championship, ahead of Gilles de Ferran, Michael Andretti, who has won here 5 times, and Alex Zanardi, the winner of our most recent race in Cleveland, Ohio. But that is just the beginning of our story. Hello, everybody. I'm Bob Varsha, along with former kart champion Danny Sullivan. Danny, we expected this story to be all about the Canadians. Suddenly, in qualifying, we have an all-British front row. Dario Franchitti and Mark Blundell, followed by Americans Bobby Rahal and Michael Andretti. How do you analyze it?
Well, Dario Franchitti's done a tremendous job. He's with a new team. He's going to be very strong today. He's not under as much pressure as a lot of people think. I think he's going to hold up well. The big question mark is going to be in the pits. Mark Blundell, who had his first win and Pac West's first win at Portland, is going to be strong. They're going to be looking for number 2. But the experience is in row number 2. Michael Andretti, 5 wins. Bobby Rahal, the first win here, 3 seconds, 3/3. Very strong, very experienced. I think those guys are probably where they're going to get their greatest battle, and we're probably going to see the winner come from that second row.
Well, as you see, the cars are on track, warming tires and engines in anticipation of the green flag. Here's the way they line up for today's race. On pole, Dario Franchitti, the first got to sit on pole since Jackie Stewart in 1966, alongside Mark Blundell, who won in Portland earlier this year. Row 2, Bobby Rahal, who won the first race held here in Toronto, and Michael Andretti, who's done so 5 times. On row 3 will be Scott Pruitt, who missed the morning warm-up due to transmission problems. He'll be alongside Alex Zanardi, who was quickest in the warm-up. Row 4 will be Andre Ribeiro, second fastest in the morning session, and Raul Poisel of Brazil. On row 5 will be Greg Moore, his first race on home turf since winning twice earlier this year, and Mauricio Gugelmin alongside. Row 6 will be Gilles de Ferran, who scored more points in the last 5 races than any other driver, and Brian Herta, who made the podium a week ago in Cleveland. Row 7 will be Christian Fittipaldi, continuing his comeback from injury, and Paul Tracy, the only Canadian to win here in Toronto. Row 8 will be Jimmy Vasser, the reigning series champion, and Walter Salas, the rookie who won in Indy Lights here a year ago. Row 9 will be Al Unser Jr., a 2-time winner here in 1988 and 1990, and Michel Jourdain Jr. of Mexico, his 3rd start since switching over from Lola to Reynard chassis. On row 10 will be Parker Johnstone and P.J. Jones, once again the fastest of the Toyota-powered cars. Row 11 will be Patrick Carpentier, who remains the only driver to finish every race this year. He'll be next to Adrian Fernandez, the defending champion here in Toronto. On row 12 will be Max Pappas and Richie Hearn. On row 13, Juan Fangio II and Arndt Meyer, one of 7 drivers making his first start here at Exhibition Place. And on row 14, Hiro Matsushita of Japan and Dennis Batolo, who returns to the series for the first time since the season opener at Homestead, Florida. Now let's talk about the circuit, Danny.
Well, since last year, the organizers have ground away the concrete patches. They're very slippery. They're down here in turn 1, the end of the back straightaway, right here. A bad one over in 5, another one right there. And the drivers are complaining about the grip off those corners. This place has 5 good spots to pass, but if you don't get those passes done, you're going to pay the consequences. This is an exciting, a very physical track, and one you have to pay attention all day long, but it produces some great racing.
A week ago was the wide open spaces of Burke Lakefront Airport. Now it's the concrete canyons in Toronto. The circuit remeasured, as all the circuits are this year, 1.721 miles, slightly shorter than it was thought to be in the past. Will go 95 laps. The defending champion, Adrian Fernandez of Mexico, and our pit window should be around laps 30 to 35. I'll look at some of the stories we'll be following. The points battle, the championship stretch run is on. Michael Andretti says you can win it or lose it in this stretch of 5 races in 6 weeks. This is the second of those 5 races. An all-British front row, the first time that's happened since 1966. Scotsman Jackie Stewart alongside Englishman Graham Hill. And fuel management, as ever, will be the story of the day as the teams try to squeeze the least amount of time out of the pit lane. A huge crowd on hand in anticipation of a great race. And what a responsibility for Dario Franchitti. His first pole, he'll lead them to the green flag for the first time in his young career. Off the final turn they come. They'll have a long sweeping left-hander as the crowd comes to its feet as one here in Toronto. And we are about to take green. Franchitti and Blundell on the front row. with the experience of Bobby Rahal and Michael Andretti behind them. Here we go. Big right-hander coming up. Oh, and Hall made a move for the
Bobby hit Franchitti. Bobby touched him. He locked up, went down the inside right there, and he hit his right rear, spun him around. Dario tried to correct it.
And it appears that Christian Fittipaldi in the red car to the right up against the wall has stalled. There is Carl Hogan, who used to be Bobby Rahal's partner in Rahal Hogan Racing. His former partner made a move down the inside, knocked wheels with pole sitter Dario Franchitti. The Scotsman spun, and it appears he stalled.
That's very disappointing. Unfortunately, that was not Dario's fault there. He got tapped from behind.
And we have double yellow flags from the flag stand, a full course caution before we've completed lap 1. Franchitti has now regained the fire, and he is away. Fittipaldi being push-started by the kart safety team. So this should be a very short yellow flag. Our pictures coming to us from Canadian network CBC. There you see one of those concrete patches you were talking about, Danny.
There's Dario Franchitti right there on your screen. Bobby Rahal right out there on the inside. Dario goes down. He's got the line, but Bobby tries to come up the inside and just tapped him and spun around. He got out there. Dario got out wide, tried to hold it. Look at everybody bunched up in there. 4 or 5 abreast. Look, Bobby's down the inside now. He thinks he's got it, but Dario was on the inside.
Let's go on board Bobby Rahal's in-car. There is Franchitti over on the left.
Okay, now Bobby's making his move now. It looks by that he's pulled it alongside of him. But here comes Dario. He's still got the line. Dario's turning in. You can just see him. He's already been bumped out there by Bobby. He's trying to hold on to it. Oh, look, they just almost touched.
Now let's try another onboard camera, that of Andre Ribeiro.
Our leaders are up here. The tap's gone. Dario's trying to collect it. Rahal gets a little sideways. Ribeiro got out of there quite well, so I'm just past Michael Andretti on the left-hand side of the screen.
Well, we wondered if that mix of experience and youth would be volatile. It turned out it was. Let's ride with Michael Andretti.
Oh, Michael sees it. Trying to find a spot. Oh, that was close. Good move by Michael.
Drop a gear and losing places on the racetrack, however. Now we anticipate a green flag this time by. Lights are off on the safety car. It'll be a single file restart. Here's the order. Mark Blundell, Bobby Rahal, Scott Pruitt, Andre Ribeiro, Greg Moore, and Michael Andretti. Blundell leads them off the corner. The green flag waves were underway once again. Through turn 1, looking for speed off of turn 2 onto Lakeshore Boulevard, the long back straightaway. And Ribeiro immediately all over Scott Pruitt for third.
Scott's going to go right down the inside, protect that spot.
All third gear through here.
Up to fourth. That's when you see him pull it back there. He's up to fourth.
Blundell remains the leader. Rahal, Pruitt, Ribeiro, Moore, Andretti, Poisel, Zanardi, Vassar, and Paul Tracy, your top 10.
Bob, we talked to Carl Hogan. He has radioed in with Dario. Dario says the car is handling okay. He's just lost all the track position. No severe damage.
And from the Bobby Rahal camp, indication that everything was all right on that race car. He was able to continue. One of the others that was close to the action, Greg Moore, also indicating no problems for the 99 car.
Dario Franchitti went from pole to 26th place. Christian Fittipaldi is 27th. On the backstretch they go, up to 187 miles an hour before hard braking and this uphill right-hander, fairly steeply uphill.
That's what they do when they come out of that second gear. They do a short shift to keep from breaking the tires loose because you're very slow there.
Balancing the car on the throttle. Very quick through these corners.
just slide on that concrete patch there.
For the third race of the season, Mark Blundell is in the lead, the third race in a row that the Englishman has led. What a comparison to the season he had a year ago with a horrifying crash in Rio that left him with a broken foot. Lots of DNFs, but he has won this year, and he is a new driver. He's out front, and we'll be back with more from Toronto in a moment. For complete coverage of the PPG Kart World Series, including the latest news, notes, and results, check out ABC Sports Racing Area on America Online. Your keyword, ABC Sports. Here at Exhibition Place in Toronto, you ride with Andre Ribeiro, who moments ago was passed by Alex Zanardi for 4th place here at the Molson Indy. Zanardi started 6th, was shuffled back in the field at that contretemps at the first corner, and now he has moved back up into 4th place. 8 laps complete. You see the race leader, Mark Blundell, and the time interval to the cars following him.
Bob, it's interesting from the Zanardi standpoint as he's made his early move. This team was concerned that they may have made a wrong decision yesterday because they pulled out their qualifying car of Friday because they changed the option on the tire. They went to a primary tire. They thought maybe they were in trouble, but obviously the primary right now is working. He's picked up a couple of spots. We're happy in 4th position.
Well, Gary, also when I spoke with him earlier, he said he wished he'd had this car in qualifying because it was good for 4th quick on full tanks this morning. So he's very happy with the car, and if it was that quick in the morning, he's showing what it can do right now. He's moving steadily up through the field.
And Eddie, he also dropped back on that initial get-together down in turn 1. He dropped back to 8th or 9th position, so he's clearly the quickest man on the track right now.
I see the times at the line as the cars cross the start-finish line. We put them in order and give you the interval. And the length of time it takes them to get on the screen gives you some idea of how far behind they are if you were standing right there at the start-finish line. Now another driver on the move as you look at Scott Pruitt in the bright orange car and the red of Alex Zanardi just behind him. Zanardi's teammate Jimmy Vasser, who started 15th, is now up in 9th place.
Guys down here in the promo pit, Scott Pruitt before the race was joking with the crew. He said the one guy we ought to punch out of the way if we can is Zanardi. And it looks like he may be a prognosticator with good sense because he's got him all over him right now.
There is Alex Zanardi, twice a winner this year. Ribeiro, Moore.
Just visually watching the screens, Zanardi's car seems to be working very well. He's taking a tighter line coming out of the corners, means he's got more grip and he can drive where he wants to, which is going to be a big benefit now. He can take different lines. He also seems to be able to put the power down very well, which is key around here.
There you see the time gap between Moore and Andretti in the battle for 6th place. Time after time, usually in qualifying, but a week ago in Cleveland in the race, we saw what Alex Zanardi can do in that Reynard with Honda Power and Firestone tires. When the car is set up to his liking, he can simply fly. In the Swift. It's been 18 years since an American-built IndyCar chassis won outside the continental United States. A.J. Foyt in Silverstone, England, in a Coyote Ford. Michael or Christian Fittipaldi could end that drought today with a win here in Canada. There is Mark Blundell. Bobby Rahal, Pruitt and Zanardi. Zanardi all over Pruitt.
Mark Blundell caught that slower car right there.
Dennis Vitolo.
At not the best spot. Well, there's Dennis, very professional, moved over, gave him a spot, didn't hold him up through this complex.
Rahal in second gets around Vitolo, that is. Here comes Pruitt. Oh, and Alex Zanardi wasting no time.
He wasn't going to let go of the back end of Pruitt's car there. He's trying to set him up. He wants to take a run on him going down that back straightaway. That's the best place to pass him. It's the longest draft. They've got to go through this series of corners here. Here's a good spot, but it's a quick corner. Now they'll have out here. Now Alex wants to stay as close as he can. So he's got a good run on him. He's going to stay right up underneath him, get a little bit of draft down the straightaway, and hopefully be able to dive out at the braking area right down here where we just saw Mark Blundell's car. But look at Scott. He covered him there. He took the middle of the road. He wasn't going to give him an easy pass. Michael Andretti taking a look at Greg Moore in the blue and white car. That's Greg Moore. Look at Zanardi going up the inside. Tough spot to pass. Great pass right in there.
Zanardi moves from 4th to 3rd as he continues to climb. A week ago, Zanardi's fast lap at Cleveland was 9/10 of a second faster than the next fastest man. In fact, the Italian cut 16 laps that were faster than the next fastest car.
And Bob, it's interesting from the Zanardi pit. Chip Ganassi on that lap had just given him permission from a fuel economy standpoint to use the button. They talk about the button on the wheel. It richens the fuel composition and gives you maximum horsepower. He had clearance to use it, even though fuel's been a concern in every race. It looks like it just paid off.
Now let's watch and see if there's contact between Alex Zanardi and Scott Pruitt.
Oh, little smoke right there coming off the screen. Off of his left front tire was Zanardi's right rear, just where they just touched a little bit. It's very tight quarters in there. That's the spot right there. And of course, Scott Pruitt doesn't want to give up that spot. That's a lot of points right there. He's not going to make it easy for Alex.
One other thing we learned about Alex Zanardi at Cleveland last week, if we didn't already know it, was that he is not afraid to throw the hip when he needs to. Just ask Juan Fangio II at Cleveland a week ago. There are the runners through the top 12. We'll be back with more of the Molson Indy from Toronto in just a moment. Welcome back to Exhibition Place. Bob Varsha, Danny Sullivan with you for the Molson Indy. Paul Tracy in the bright orange and white number 3. Leading Mauricio Gugelmin. They run 10th and 11th in the race. The man on the move, however, our pole sitter, Dario Franchitti, started first, was bumped by Bobby Rahal in the first corner, went back to 26th. He has now passed Parker Johnstone for 16th. So Franchitti has made up 10 spots in the last 12 laps. Let's get down to the pit lane and Gary Gerould.
Bob, all season long, we've talked about how critical fuel management has become in this series. They remeasure every one of the circuits this year, they being the CART officials. They did that at Toronto, and the new measurement is a little bit shorter than what had been listed in the past. What does that do to fuel? That means they get less fuel for the duration of the race. And already now, we're hearing top teams telling their drivers, conserve on fuel. We told you that the Zanardi used the button. That means enriching it up, use more fuel to make the pass. But then they immediately said, go into your conservation mode. The last lap, they told him he was absolutely perfect on fuel. Same message has gone out to the race leader, Mark Blundell. Marty Reed, how about your area?
The one guy who's been allowed to turn up the wick has been Scott Pruitt. Now, how much, we don't exactly know, but I don't think they want him to lose any more positions. The other thing we're keeping an eye on, remember, Blundell and Zanardi are on the Firestone primaries. All the other front runners are on the options. We're going to see which one wears out first.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Hiro Matsushita is passed by race leader Mark Blundell and heads for the pit lane. Meanwhile, Bobby Rahal is being slowly drawn in by Alex Zanardi in 3rd.
One of the things I think we got to comment on is that start line or the first corner shunt. Bobby Rahal is not a driver that bumps people out of the way. He was going for a position, got down there. Unfortunately, they touched. He thought he had him. Then Dario Franchitti got in there a little later. They touched, they spun around. That was just what you call a racing incident. It was nobody's really fault. Unfortunately, Bobby did the tapping on Dario's right rear.
Split-second decisions in the heat of battle sometimes go awry. It's been 75 races since Bobby Rahal, the 3-time series champion, last won a race on the short oval at Nazareth, Pennsylvania back in 1992. And we're beginning to see that build-up of rubber off the racing line, Danny.
Yes, and what happens is as that builds up, if you have to go offline to pass somebody, it makes it it's like what we call the marbles. You get out there, it's very slippery to pass anybody.
Here's a Dario Franchitti update. The Scotsman now up to 14th place as he continues to climb back through the field.
What Zanardi likes here is he likes to get right up behind him, going down the straightaway draft, and then I think use that button for a little bit extra shot of power at the end so he can pull out. Bobby's been there before. He's seen this maneuver. He gets in there. He got the back end came out a little bit. Now Zanardi's going to try the same move he did on Scott Pruitt. Dive up the inside. He likes that spot. He seems to have good traction. But look at Bobby coming back at him.
Tough to do that on the outside.
Especially there. It's very slippery out there. But what that tells me is that Zanardi is putting the power down very well when he comes out of that hairpin.
And so Alex Zanardi has moved up into second place. Remember, he was the quickest man in the morning warm-up. So he has a setup on his car that he likes as you ride with Bobby Rahal.
He also has one other thing. He has a spot that he likes to pass people. We've seen two very good, clean maneuvers there in a tough spot to pass against two very good competitors.
And everybody knows how Chip Ganessi's a cheerleader, and he just got on the radio and said, "You're the man, baby, you're the man."
Well, Gary, don't forget he's watching the monitor just like a lot of other people, watching his man make the move.
Here's another look at that pass from on board Bobby's car. Watch the left side of your screen.
Tight quarters in there. When Alex dives up the inside, of course, it puts him out wide. Bobby tries to cut back, but it's very difficult to pass at that spot around the outside.
Sweeping through turn numbers 10 and 11, Alex Zanardi. There you see, as he closes in on the race leader, the interval coming down.
And the race leader, Bob, that camp is very aware of the charge by Zanardi. There have been some expressions of concern already here about A, the fuel, and B, the man with the Z, Zanardi. He's coming.
Oh, Michael Andretti, you see him, he was sideways coming out there. He wants to make a run on Greg Moore.
This is for sixth. Ooh, will Michael try him on the outside? Yes, he will. Will he have
spot? He's got to pinch him in there a little bit. The shot we've got, he made it very cleanly.
Look it from there. The American-built Swift chassis with Ford power and Goodyear tires for Michael Andretti, who now begins to open a few car lengths on Moore. There's some of that build-up off the line at the bottom of your screen. Both Goodyear and Firestone trying to use the softest possible compounds under the conditions. Tremendous heat a week ago in Cleveland. The Firestone runners say their tires held up well.
Those were our leaders that just went out there. Zanardi looked very close to Blundell. Now, of course, if Mark's had to turn his fuel down, he's being more conservative. There's Mark Blundell in that bright orange and blue coming right into your screen there. And Zanardi right behind him in the red car.
Race leader Mark Blundell drawing up on Arndt Meyer. Here's another look at Michael Andretti's pass on Greg Moore. Moore on the left, Andretti in black.
Now this is a tougher pass because Michael has to go out to the outside and get around him. So he turns Greg Moore in there just a little bit. Greg doesn't want to do anything silly. If he tries to dive down on the inside, Michael's way out wide.
And with that, Michael Andretti is up into sixth behind Mark Blundell, Alex Zanardi, Bobby Rahal, Scott Pruitt, and Andre Ribeiro. We'll be back to Toronto after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Are you ready for some football? Saturday at a special time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 Central. ABC's Wide World of Sports airs the Pro Football Hall of Fame game, the Minnesota Vikings against the Seattle Seahawks from the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. The kickoff for the pro season on ABC Sports Saturday. As you ride with Michael Andretti in sixth spot, one of our top point scorers has been in the pits, Gary Gerald.
Yeah, the man who's been on the podium for the last 5 events, Gilles de Ferran, having a major problem. It relates somehow to throttle linkage. They've pulled the front engine cover off, and right in front of the shocks and suspension pieces, they're trying to get down inside to get to the linkage and see if they can free it. But he's lost a lot of time already. The engine's been shut off. I don't think we're going to see de Ferran on the podium this week, boys.
He is now 2 laps down and counting, is Gilles de Ferran. Now Andre Ribeiro comes around the outside or the inside on that corner and takes Michael Andretti for 5th. And this is a battle that's been going on. The timing and scoring, measuring the cars at the start-finish line, showed Ribeiro in 5th spot when they began that lap. So Michael must have taken it away. Ribeiro got it back. The order is Blundell, Zanardi, Rahal, Pruitt, Ribeiro, Andretti, Moore, Boisel, Vasser, and Paul Tracy in the number 10 spot. There is Tracy, car number 3. He and Al Unser Jr. still trying to pick up win number 100 for their car owner, Roger Penske. Now I understand that Paul has been right out there by the concrete. Here's another look.
Oh, just right there. He just got the wall late under braking in there. Lost a spot to Big Mo. He was trying to get in there very deep under braking and just got it sideways.
Paul Tracy has been absolutely frustrated all weekend long. At one point he got out of his car, looked over at the grandstand and said, has anybody got a setup I can use? They have not been able to get the balance that they need in the cars, and Paul Tracy has tagged them all, the wall that is, more than once this weekend.
He had quite a big accident in practice and tore up the car pretty badly coming out onto the back straightaway.
There is Mark Blundell. Now in the last 10 or 12 laps, Dario Franchitti was taking nearly a second a lap off the race leader. Blundell has started to reverse that just slightly. Here comes Alex Zanardi running second.
Of course, it helps a lot, Bob, when you've got a clean track in front of you. Don't forget Dario Franchitti's fighting his way through traffic and through guys that he's battling for positions as well. So they don't want to give it up.
Andre Ribeiro with a bright yellow nose on his Reynard. Almost stuck it under Hiro Matsushita as he tried to lap him. And that allows Michael Andretti right there to draw right up on Ribeiro's gearbox.
And Greg Moore.
More on Gilles de Ferran now with Gary.
And the team continues to work, Bob. They think they've isolated the problem in the throttle linkage. They're trying to replace it. It's been several laps now, but they're still determined to get out there and hope that perhaps they can chase some points. They still haven't got it cured, but they're working like that.
Michael trying to stay on the throttle so he can stay as close to Ribeiro as possible there, but he got on it on those concrete patches. You saw the back end jumped out, and he had to correct it. That was the quick movement with his hands.
Out there on clear track, Mark Blundell is drawing away from the cars behind him. Zanardi, Rahal, Pruitt, Ribeiro, this man, Michael Andretti.
You know what that tells me is that Blundell's fuel has gotten a little bit better. He's been able to turn it up, and Zanardi's probably used more fuel getting to that position and pushing that button to be able to pass people, and consequently he's had to back off a little bit.
Paul Tracy, you see, exiting the pit lane. He has made his first stop, and he does so under green flag conditions on lap number 29. Mark Blundell, the race leader, driving a Mercedes-Benz powered car. The Mercedes drivers have an 8-position switch that normally we call the mixture control. It controls not only the mixture, but the entire engine mapping, ignition, and so forth.
See, our leader just went out of the screen there, and there's the gap he stretched out to seconds, and Artie just left, and this is the battle for third. 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th.
Ribeiro, Andretti, Moore, and Boisel in close order drill. Here comes Mauricio Gugelmin going around Hiro Matsushita. Gugelmin holding down 9th spot. Bobby Rahal now has Scott Pruitt looming large in his mirrors.
Oh, that was a little tricky in there. Greg Moore, they a little dodgy under braking. Back end was moving around a little bit.
That was Moore in the blue car holding off Raul Boisel, who got alongside him on Lakeshore Boulevard. Just one brief yellow flag thus far as you see Al Unser Jr. in the Penske pits, and they're pulling on a suspension part.
Which that usually indicates that he touched the wall with that left front and bent that a little bit, and they're just trying to pull it back straight.
Now we ride with Patrick Carpentier, leader in the Jim Truman Rookie of the Year standings over Dario Franchitti. But Carpentier, driving for Tony Bettenhausen, has been having his problems with balance this weekend. Tony Bettenhausen himself finished 11th in this race back in the early 90s. This man doing his best. We'll be back. Back at Exhibition Place, Bob Varsha, Danny Sullivan with you for the Molson Indy. You ride with Bobby Rahal, who has just completed his first pit stop for fuel and fresh tires.
he was one of the first front runners to really go in there and stay. And it looked like his tires were going off because everybody was passing him.
Look out the back of Jimmy Vasser's car at Dario Franchitti, who is now up into 10th place with the help of some pit stops from our front runners. But the Scotsman continues his charge. Scott Pruitt is in the Brahma pits. They'll be putting Firestone tires on. We are in the general pit window, working lap number 34, the 1/3 mark of the race, and Brian Herta comes in just behind Scott Pruitt's exit.
That's what it's like in the pits there. You're trying to make the most of it. You got the signal to get out. Scott Pruitt's guy didn't seem to be alarmed by it, so it looked like there was plenty of room. But it's interesting that RAHAL's cars are both the first two of the top guys to pit, and they're both on Goodyear tires.
Here comes the Firestone shod machine of race leader Mark Blundell, who heads for the Pac West pits. Marty Reed awaits him.
Yeah, the crew is set out, and you're right, Danny. I got a chance to look at RAHAL's tires as we got this crew go to work, and Vasser is in as well as Zanardi, I should say. The number 4 car went zipping by, so he's just a little bit further down.
Yes, indeed, Marty. We're watching Zanardi. This team has been flawless this year.
13-0 for Blundell.
And we've got 12 seconds flat for Zanardi, so he may have gained a second in the pits. Let's see what it translates on the track.
His teammate just went around him. Jimmy Vasser just passed him into the first corner. That's Max Pappas right behind him.
Pappas using Toyota power. Word from the officials is that Brian Herta will get a black flag for a pit drive-through for excessive speed. A rash of pit stops continues. Dario Franchitti has been in and out. The race leader right now is Michel Jourdain from Mexico. Check that. Greg Moore now leads. As you watch Max Pappas, there is Dario Franchitti, who was up into 7th place before pitting on lap 34.
But Greg Moore has just come into the pits as well. Of course, it's very difficult for anybody to score right now when everybody's diving in and out of the pits. Some of them have made the stops and some of them have not.
There is Greg Moore in the pits, Mauricio Gugelmin in the Pac West pits behind him. And now Raul Boisel moves into the race lead with Mark Blundell 2nd, Alex Zanardi 3rd, Jimmy Vasser 4th.
Remember, when those guys go out of the pits, they don't have a lot of temperature in their tires. They can't get up to speed as fast as a car that's just passing them right there.
Rubber continuing to build up on the racetrack. Here's a look at the fuel window. You see Raul Boisel has yet to pit. He is well within his window. The lines for Blundell and Zanardi are shorter because they have pitted. They've completed just one lap since their last pit.
There's Boisel going into the pits right now.
Marty Reed awaits the Brazilian.
It's always amazing. Boisel always gets better fuel economy than his teammate Scott Pruitt. And right now, he's got the race lead. He's going to hand it over. These guys are going to work. They'll put the same setup on. They're not going to make any changes to the race car. They're very happy with where Raul is positioned. Again, they think fuel economy may be the difference for this team over Scott Pruitt.
A 14.3 second stop on lap number 35.
Now you might wonder why does one driver in the same car, the same team, get better fuel mileage than another. That has a lot to do with driving style. That's not to say that Scott Pruitt's style is any different than or worse than Boisel's, but it just means that he drives on the throttle a little bit different. He's maybe smoother on the throttle the way he's on and off. Scott Pruitt may dance on that throttle a little bit more, you know, and that chews up a little bit more fuel.
There's Mark Blundell, now shown as the race leader. Alex Zanardi runs 2nd. Andre Ribeiro 3rd. Michael Andretti 4th. Raul Boisel back out of the pits in 5th place. Followed by Scott Pruitt, Bobby Rahal, Greg Moore, Mauricio Gugelmin, and Paul Tracy. Christian Fittipaldi runs in 15th spot. We'll be back with more from Exhibition Place. You've heard about it, now you can see it on ABC Sports Thursday, August 17th. Tyson versus Holyfield 2. One of the most talked about heavyweight championship bouts ever, coming your way on ABC Sports Thursday, August 7th. Here at Toronto at the Molson Indy, Michael Andretti runs in 4th place as he puts a lap on Max Pappas. The order is Mark Blundell, Alex Zanardi, Andre Ribeiro, Michael Andretti, Scott Pruitt, and Bobby Rahal, the top 6. Down to Marty Reed.
Yeah, give you an update on Al Unser Jr. He had a little contact with Walter Salas, broke the or bent the front steering arm, spent about 3 minutes here in the pits. That's why he is well back in the field.
Watch Andre Ribeiro running in 3rd. What a difference the changeover from the Lola to the Reynard chassis has made. Oh, and Dario Franchitti has parked. No signs of an accident. It looks as though he simply lost the drive. What a disappointment for Hogan Racing.
That's at the end of the long straightaway after the hairpin.
Are those his skid marks?
It's hard to tell. It looks like he's just offset of those, but I can't imagine that there's anybody else.
He may have nosed the wall. And there is Carl Hogan, who was simply too emotional to speak when this young driver that he admires so much took his first career pole in a dramatic qualifying session that went perfectly for the Hogan Racing team.
Guys had a chance to talk to Carl Hogan. He's got the headset off. He said he brushed the wall. We're done for the day.
He might have nosed it into that wall, which is why the marks were offset.
Or Bobby could have clipped the inside wall, and that shot him over to the outside.
Well, either way, that story, it appears, is over. And he was well out of the way, so there is no sign of a yellow flag right now. P.J. Jones with Alex Zanardi just behind him. Jones running in 17th, Zanardi in 2nd. Toyota continues to work hard on their kart engine. They are showing improvement from week to week. There is Franchitti.
You saw Alex Zanardi not pull out and try to pass Toyota until this spot because of the yellow flags. He cannot move out when they're waving yellow flags and make a pass in that spot.
A look at the pit summary shows you what a team can do for a driver on the pit stops. Blundell Zanardi held position. Andre Ribeiro jumped from 5th to 3rd. Bobby Rahal came in 3rd and came out in 6th.
For Mark Blundell, there were no changes on that stop whatsoever, routine service, but they're advising their driver, Bob, that he must conserve fuel.
I've got to tell you, Gary, that's the toughest call that you ever make to a driver, because the last thing they want to hear is that they can't drive that race car as hard as they'd like to, particularly when you have a great race car, which obviously Mark has.
And remember what happened when he had to face that same order at Detroit on the tight circuit at Belle Isle, and how he got to within 100 yards of the finish line and was denied the victory.
Sometimes the lessons come hard in racing. Gilles de Ferran, as you see, back up and running, but de Ferran well down in the field, shown in 26th place, 5 laps down to leader Mark Blundell after that long pit stop. There is Bobby Rahal, shown in 6th right now, 15 seconds behind the race leader. There you see the laps led thus far. Michael Andretti has an astonishing record here. You've heard about the 5 victories. Michael, coming into this race, had led 401 laps in 10 starts here in Toronto. The rest of the field in today's race, as you ride with Michael, had led 432 ever. He has simply been magic around this racetrack. Headed toward the Prince's Gate. Very much the symbol of Exhibition Place. P.J. Jones getting a little squirrely under braking there. Michael drives right up on the back of him. Ford against Toyota.
Of course, Michael made a very smart move there. You want to wait until you're out on the straightaway. There's no point in diving under him at that point.
There's the local yellow flags. That's where Alex Zanardi was parked.
No, that was where Dario Franchitti was parked. And they almost had his car in that shot off to the left. They almost had his car behind the wall.
In which case the yellow flag will be removed. On board with Bobby Rahal. Very quick through this tight section of the track. There's the Exhibition Stadium that was the original home of the Toronto Blue Jays baseball team. and houses what was once a short oval stock car track on which Richard Petty took his first victory. There's a name you don't associate much with Toronto, Canada. Arndt Meyer with the bright green spot on his helmet. There is Alex Zanardi.
And you see that bright yellow nose right there. That's Andre Ribeiro, and he looks like he's closing in a little bit on Zanardi.
Michael Andretti in the all black. The gap from Mark Blundell, the race leader, to second place Alex Zanardi, 5.4 seconds. Back to Michael Andretti in fourth, 9.5 seconds. Michael waving. I believe that was Gilles de Ferran he went by.
Looked like it. Of course, they'll probably use this somewhat as a test session now. See what they can find out about the car, but he's way back.
Danny, in response to one of your questions, you were wondering about the tire wear at the end of that first stop for the Goodyear guys. The two of them that had been up near the front, Michael Andretti and Bobby Rahal. Teams confirming that we're losing a little grip at the end of the run. The wear was okay, but the car, in fact, was starting to slide just a little bit. Also, a note from the Brahma camp relating to Rahal Boycel. They lost positions on each of their stops in the last event at Cleveland. They really worked hard in the interim, and this time they gained a position coming out of the pits, and so that team's pumped up in that respect.
Well, there you see Gilles de Ferran back in the pits for more work on the car. Mark Blundell in first place has led every lap thus far. He remains out front. We'll be back to exhibition place after this message with a word from our ABC stations. Welcome back to exhibition place. The Molson Indy continues to go down at a record pace here in Toronto. Mark Blundell is the race leader. Michael Andretti there behind Arndt Meyer runs in fourth place. Meyer well back in the field, running for the Project Indy racing team. Ooh, Michael looking for a way by, but Meyer squarely in the middle of the road.
Well, there's a little bend in the straightaway there, and if Arndt Meyer or any other driver takes the racing line and cuts down to the inside, it tends to chop you a little bit, and you know, you're not sure if the guy's going to take that line or give you the space.
Young German running in 21st place. Greg Moore, Adrian Fernandez, and Mauricio Gugelmin. Be sure to join us for the next round of the PPG Kart World Series. We'll go from the concrete canyons of Toronto to the wide open spaces of our first super speedway this year, Michigan. Second running of the US 500 coming your way on ABC Sports next Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 Central and Pacific. Mark Blundell continues to lead. Gilles de Ferran back in the pits. Gary Gerald is there.
And in fact, now out of the car. Gilles, continue to be a problem with the throttle linkage?
Yeah, that was a problem in the throttle linkage to begin with. We thought we fixed it, but now the brakes started playing up, so and we're 5 laps down there. We thought it was not much point risking.
You had been on the podium 4 of the last 5, and you'd really scored a tremendous number of points. How much does this hurt you now?
I think it's a shame, especially because the car was going extremely well. I mean, we were fairly fast. We got stuck there in the traffic jam in the first turn. But after that, the car was going very well. So I was looking forward to a good finish. But, you know, racing is like that. Some you win and some you don't.
From the street circuit, we'll see him on the Super Speedway of Michigan next week. Thank you.
Michigan International Speedway, 225-mile-an-hour average speed. What a contrast from the street circuit here in Toronto. Underscoring once again that you have to excel on the temporary circuits, the permanent road courses, the short ovals, and the super speedways if you want to have a shot at the PPG Cup and the $1 million bonus that goes with it. There is Greg Moore, currently shown in the number 8 spot. Word from the corners is that race leader Mark Blundell had a brush with the wall. Mauricio Gugelmin goes around Walter Salas, who won in the Indy Lights Series here in Toronto last year.
Hey, Bob, if Blundell brushed the wall, he hasn't reported it to the crew because I talked to Bruce McCall, and he says, no, you sure it isn't 19, not car 18? And so they're a little bit dumbfounded down here themselves.
Bruce McCall, the owner of the Pac West team, seeing the fruits of his labor ripen this year. A victory from Mark Blundell, strong running from his teammate Mauricio Gugelmin. team is really coming together. There is Bruce McCaw, tremendous automotive enthusiast, owns a number of vintage cars, likes to race them. We are just past the halfway mark of the race. Michel Jourdain on the right, Mark Blundell on the left. No lack of performance there from the race leader. Climbing the small hill to turn number 5. The gap from Blundell to Zanardi in second, 2.2 seconds. And less than a second back to Andre Ribeiro in third.
And Andre Ribeiro's been slowly whittling away at that. Michael Andretti giving a hand wave.
Hiro Matsushita up ahead.
Yes, and he's saying, hey, get out of the way. I'm racing those guys for a spot. I don't want to lose any ground. It's too hard to make it up. And when you get caught back in those sections, it's very difficult to pass back there. A slower car can just take that 1 second or 2 seconds away from you. It makes it very difficult to get it back.
There is Blundell, Jourdain behind him, but Jourdain running back in 15th spot. And then Alex Zanardi trying to close. And then Andre Ribeiro running third. Marty Reed has more on him.
Well, what a difference a chassis can make. Remember when they had the Lola and not the Reynard that he's in now? He couldn't even find the top 5. They made one change, a tire pressure adjustment on their last stop. He's running a strong third. It's no wonder Michael was waiting for everybody to get out of the way. He's got a hard job to catch Ribeiro.
Hiro Matsushita has pitted. That helps explain why he was moving slowly in front of Michael Andretti. The Lola firm that won championships in the PPG Kart World Series has fallen on hard times of late. Only 4 drivers still using the chassis in the series. Whoa, big steering input there for Andre Ribeiro.
Well, you can see what's happening. The car right in front of him is Zanardi. Zanardi is behind another car that he's obviously trying to get back. This is a good opportunity for Ribeiro. He says, hey, I've got to make it up while he's held up, and I don't want to lose that ground. He wants to close up any opportunity that he can get.
The latest news about Lola is that company founder Eric Broadley has apparently agreed to sell the company to a consortium of its senior management. Hopefully that deal will be closed within the next month or so if certain conditions are met.
Sorry to interrupt you, Bob. I don't think he's going to get held up here too much. That's his teammate right in front of him, so they probably got some orders to get out of the way and let Andre go. And of course, right now we ride on board with last year's pole sitter, and right in front of him is last year's winner.
I think you're mixing up Jourdain with Adrian Fernandez, who won the race last year, the 2 Mexican drivers in the series. I already made one mistake. You're entitled to one.
I apologize.
But that's your mulligan, no more. Watching the shadow bouncing up and down under the front wing. Here goes Ribeiro.
See how close they come to all those walls. Right out there to the edge. You can't make any mistake. Shortening up the straight, just going down the inside there. Hard on the brakes. Good escape route if you make a mistake down there at the end. Short shift there. Up into third gear. Concrete patch, third gear. Now we've got a tight right-hander. He'll go up a gear. On the power, this is a double apex. See how long it is around there, right out to the wall. Fifth gear, this is really quick through here. You got that blind wall right there. Come right in there close. See him slide off that concrete patch, turns in.
The drivers say you can expect to slide when you hit those concrete patches. You can only hope that you can control that slide when you get the good grip on the asphalt at the other side. Blundell, Zanardi, Ribeiro, Andretti, Pruitt, and Rahal, your top 6. We'll be back with more from Toronto in just a moment. Against the skyline of downtown Toronto, welcome back to Exhibition Place as the Molson Indy continues, and our top 4 cars, Blundell, Zanardi, Ribeiro, and Andretti, run within 5 seconds. And here is why, Danny.
Watch Mark, the back end will come out right there. He's going to go on the brake and see him slide right out there. Lock him up. Luckily, he didn't have to go up the escape road. Got it slow. Eases around. Now, Zanardi's going to try to come in here. Watch this. There's Zanardi right there trying to take advantage of it.
There is Scott Pruitt running in 5th. 2 cars back is Bobby Rahal, with whom you now ride. They are running 5th and 6th. And as you see, the battle between those two is closing up as well. The top 4 run 7 seconds ahead of this battle for 5th.
And that top 4 is not spread up by a very big gap. There's just a couple seconds between 1st and 4th.
Now let's get an update on all of our runners since the last pit stop, beginning with Gary Gerald.
Well, let's start with Alex Zanardi, who continues to run in 2nd place, stalking the race leader, Mark Blundell. We saw the 12-second service. Everything was routine. They made no changes on the setup. They've been tinkering with some tire pressures here momentarily. As we watch the crew, it's still several laps to the next stop. As for Michael Andretti, who runs in 4th place, no changes on his car as well, and he has not uttered a peep, we are told, on his radio. So you know Michael must be happy. Marty Reed?
Well, down with Mark Blundell, they're not planning any changes, but they're planning on stopping at about 4 or 5 more laps. Scott Pruitt, everything seems to be okay there. They're not planning any major changes. And Ribeiro's camp, they're so happy to be on the leaderboard and seeing their name up there. They don't almost know what to do. They're so happy.
Marty, one further update here, if we may, on Zanardi. They just pulled a set of sticker tires off the wall, and we've just found out that they used sticker tires on the first stop, but they're going to go to a scuff or a scrubbed set that has a couple of laps on it for their second and what they hope will be final stop.
As we ride with Andre Ribeiro, let's check on some of our front runners using our pit window graphic. As you see, Blundell, Zanardi, and Ribeiro all with the same number of laps since their last stop. And as you see, they run within about 7 or 8 laps of the opening of their fuel window. Doesn't mean they'll stop right there on the 30th lap, but that's when we will start looking for them.
Well, my guess is they're going to go as long as they can and stretch it out there so they've got as much fuel on board so they can run it with that fuel mixture turned up as much as possible, because it looks like we're going to get awful racy here toward the end of this.
4 men running within 5 seconds of one another at the top. There is Mark Blundell. We saw at Cleveland a week ago what happens when a driver who can run it rich and strong is chasing down a driver who has to keep it a little bit leaned out. Gilles de Ferran could not run it full tilt boogie, and Alex Zanardi right there was able to run him down.
Well, and of course we saw that one little faux pas by Mark down at the end of the straightaway, and Alex was right behind him, but it looks like he can stretch it out, so he's obviously got a car that's handling very well.
Blundell, Zanardi, here comes the bright yellow nose of Andre Ribeiro, and then Michael Andretti,
who's hanging on and who's also the first Goodyear runner out there. The first 3 are, of course, on Firestones. So we'll have to see right here in these last couple of laps if Michael drops back a little bit.
We had indications watching Bobby Rahal earlier that the Goodyear tires might be going off a little bit at the end of a full tank run. Once again, Mark Blundell sliding a little bit there. The gap back to second appears to be pretty much stabilized.
I think what the viewer can't see there, Bob, is when the reason they're sliding is they've just come off of one of those concrete patches that you can't see in that shot. It slides a little bit on there, and then you see the car just kind of grab and jerk a little bit. That's when the back tires hit the asphalt and get some grip.
Scott Pruitt explained to me earlier in the weekend that the asphalt has different properties when it comes to taking up rubber. The drivers talk about rubbering in a track. The asphalt rubbers in quicker and better than the concrete does, and that only makes the problem worse as the weekend goes on.
Tasman told me that they have as much as 1 G more grip on the asphalt than they do on the concrete.
So the lateral loadings that the tires and the suspension absorb in the corners at speed.
That's also why you see, I'm sorry, Bob, that's also why you see their hands when we show the in-car camera, where their hands do a quick jerk. That's the car slides and then it grips as it hits the asphalt.
Right, with Bobby Rahal in 6th. Our top 4 are now covered by 4 seconds.
Danny, you were talking about the significance of trying to get grip. Here's a further update on Zanardi now as he plans his late race challenge. When he makes his second pit stop, not only is he going to a scuff set of Firestone tires, he is going to change from the primary to the option compound. In this instance for Firestone, the option is the harder, more durable tire. He's also going to go down one turn on the front wing setup. You might be able to tell us now how that might change the handling characteristics of the car.
Well, if he's going down one turn, that means he's going to reduce his front grip a little bit if they're turning the wings down, and that means his car's a little bit too positive right now. He's also probably looking at a longer run, what the car is doing late in the run. He might be willing to sacrifice right after the pit stop a little bit more grip for more grip later in the run.
5 seconds cover first through fourth. 5 seconds cover fifth through ninth as well. So we have two groups of cars running very close together. Here's another reminder. Don't forget, on Thursday, August 7th, ABC Sports will broadcast Tyson versus Holyfield 2. The rematch in which Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear, was subsequently suspended from boxing indefinitely, and gave birth to innumerable bad jokes. You can see the fight Thursday, August 7th on ABC Sports. Pit stops for our leaders will be coming up shortly. How will that shuffle the battle? Michael Andretti appears to be losing time in fourth. He'll need that pit stop as soon as he can get it. Stay with us. On the back stretch here in Toronto, Alex Zanardi on the right, looking to the outside of Mark Blundell, hoping perhaps to make him drift out so the Italian can dive down the inside.
Here's his favorite spot. Here's his favorite spot. Mark's not having any of it, though. That's his favorite spot where we've seen him make his best moves.
Slower traffic up ahead. Parker Johnstone just up the road.
Hey guys, Blundell may be having a gearbox problem. Remember when he almost missed the corner before? Well, he just reported in. It jumped out of gear again.
Again is not the optimum word here. We don't want to hear that if you're the crew chief on the other end. The problem with a gearbox like this, a sequential gearbox, in my opinion, has been that when they start to go long, it's usually a problem.
Can you hold it in gear?
Not on a sequential, not the way you can with another one. And usually if you start having a gearbox problem, they are great, they're reliable, but when they start having a problem, it's usually not a good sign.
Now Andre Ribeiro has pitted. There he comes out. So the order is now Blundell, Zanardi, Andretti, Scott Pruitt, Bobby Rahal, Raul Boesel, Greg Moore, Mauricio Gugelmin, and Ribeiro rejoins in ninth after a green flag stop on lap 64.
Now this could be Steve Horn being very clever here. He's in the traffic. He thinks if I stop early, I can get him in. His tires will be warmed up. Maybe in these pit stops, I can jump him ahead and pick up a spot or even two.
A week ago in Cleveland, Alex Zanardi picked up 6 spots in a couple of laps simply because of runners who were on a different pit schedule pitting ahead of him. Blundell and Zanardi down into one.
Zanardi's sliding it off the concrete there too. But of course he's not going to worry about that too much, sliding the car around right now because it's almost in his pit window. He's going to be making a stop. He's not concerned about saving the tires.
Parker Johnstone up ahead in the green and white car. There's Raul Boesel in the pit lane. Johnstone runs in 14th place, but he seems to be holding the pace of the leaders. Meanwhile, here's Mauricio Gugelmin pitting from 8th place on lap 66.
Remember one thing too about Zanardi. He's had very quick pit stops. His first pit stop was very quick. He's thinking if I can stay right there behind him, and I can beat him out of the pits.
A race to the end of the pits. Boesel got out first, but his Brazilian countryman gets out ahead of him. Gutsy move by Gugelmin, who jumped out in front of Boesel. On to the start-finish straightaway. Parker Johnstone in 14th, trying to hold on to his lap ahead of the race leader Mark Blundell with that day-glow orange nose. Here's Michael Andretti in the pits.
Hit your mark. Keep your revs up. Keep your revs up.
We can hear Lee White on our headset saying, keep your revs up, hit the mark.
Keep your revs up. It's going to be
and
smooth
you hear
throttle.
the revs come up. This will be their final stop. Tires are ready. He's out of here. 12.1 seconds.
Now he's telling him to keep the RPM up so he doesn't stall it. Hit your marks means stop right on the spot and reset your fuel meter. That's key for those guys because what it tells them back in the pits, how much fuel he's used and how much he's got left to run, so they can tell him either to turn it up or turn it down.
Michael Andretti found an open piece of racetrack as he came back out, and he remains in 3rd spot. comes Mark Blundell. And a huge smoky burnout for Ellenser Jr.
You can hear him even up from here.
Check that. That's Paul Tracy.
And you can hear Paul Tracy up here on the rev limiter that controls his speed going out of the pit.
I think there was a lot of frustration in that launch. Gap remains stable between Blundell and Zanardi at about 1.6 seconds as each approaches his next stop. They may pit together. That remains to be seen. Here's Bobby Rahal pitting from 7th. Our timing and scoring monitor recycles Michael Andretti, shown in 5th spot after his pit stop. Bobby Rahal on a scuffed set of tires comes back out. There is Scott Pruitt looking for his 2nd win of the year.
You can see all the marbles out there. See, that's all rubber off the tires. Arndt Meyer
at the pit entrance. Not particularly in anybody's way. Here comes Pruitt. Marty Reed.
Yes, as Scott Pruitt hits the marks, they're going to put a set of 4 options. They've been scuffed, they're ready, and they're putting them on, and there'll be absolutely no other changes to the race car. He loves the setup. He is out of here.
Oh, well, there was a change, Marty, on that right front wing. They made an adjustment. I couldn't tell whether it was up or down, but just on the right front, the mechanic just made a couple of turns on there. Gave him either a little bit more or a little bit less right front wing.
Working lap number 69. And Zanardi peels off to head for the pits. 2nd in the race, making his 2nd and final stop on lap number 69. Gary Gerald awaits in the Target Ganassi pits.
And they know, of course, they were 1.6 seconds back on the racetrack. Can they make it up now on this, their final stop? Option tires, Firestone, scuff set. We'll watch for what we believe will be 1 turn down on the front wing. There it is, both sides, off the jacks, he's rolling. Oh my, 10.3 seconds, sensational stop.
And Brian Herta has spun. Backed it into the tire wall. He was asking for help, a push start.
That's the first thing you do. Your driver wants,
oh, Greg Moore tags the wall.
He got off on those marbles on the outside and just no control out there. Right down there just after turn 1. That's at the end of the straightaway. Right down there is the end of the straightaway was Brian Herta, but this is Greg Moore, where he made pretty severe contact with the wall at turn 1.
Local yellow flag for the moment. Let's take another look now at what happened as the kart safety team works on Brian Herta.
Brian Herta, same thing. Locks up the rear, goes in there, slides back in, touches the tire wall. Now Greg Moore's out wide. Oh, and that's Zanardi that he tries to go around. He tags Zanardi. He ran over Zanardi's left front wheel and tagged him the wall, and then he goes out there. He's got no control at that stage.
As we so often see on these concrete barrier line temporary circuits, once he pranged the left front, ooh, and Greg Moore is hot.
Well, he's got the racing line. Zanardi's just come out of the pits. He's got to give way to the guys on the racetrack. And Zanardi's trying not to lose ground. He's trying to get down in there. They're both trying to get through a very tight spot down there and make the most of it and touch each other.
Full course caution on lap number 71, and the race leader Mark Blundell is in. What a boost for his chances in this race as his prime rival Alex Zanardi pitted under the green. Marty Reed.
Yes, this may be one of those key turning points we always look for in a race. Looking at what changes they may make. I'm looking at the front wing, and he is gone. 10.2 seconds. By the way, on Pruitt, you were right, Danny. They did take 1 turn up.
More front wing on Pruitt. My question that we've got to find out is there any damage to Zanardi's left front? Because that was a critical hit right there. That could affect the outcome.
We'll send our pit patrol down there to find out if Zanardi's car is healthy. He remains in 2nd place behind Mark Blundell. We'll be back with more after this message and a word from our ABC stations. You like your action nitromethane fueled? Check out the NHRA Mopar Parts Mile High Nationals tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 3:30 Pacific from Bandimere Speedway in Denver, Colorado on ESPN2. Back in Toronto, you ride with reigning PPG Kart World Series champion Jimmy Vasser. We are still under a full course caution after multiple offs. Brian Herta backed it into the tire wall. He is back in action. Greg Moore was not so fortunate. He tagged wheels with Alex Zanardi and hit the outside wall hard. Let's get down to Gary Gerald.
Frustrated, Greg Moore has made the walk back. What happened now, and Zanardi exiting the pit?
Zanardi was exiting the pit, and I was around the outside, and I was completely ahead of him going into turn one, and we went side by side through one. He hit my right rear tire with his left front, and so obviously I was ahead of him. You know, put me up into the air a little bit, into the wall, and that race was over.
Any way it could have been avoided, in your opinion?
Maybe if he backed off, it's just a stupid thing to happen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, here's Greg Moore right there on the screen. Alex Zanardi coming out of the pits now. Alex is in second spot, or Dyson for second. Greg Moore's back in ninth. You'll see right here, they go around. Greg Moore on the outside, Alex holding it up there tight. Slides a little bit on the concrete, just touches that left rear. I mean, his left front hits Greg Moore's right rear, sets him up in the air, gets out here, and there's nothing they can do. Gary?
Well, and let's update the Zanardi situation. Their team has watched the car go by slowly under the yellow, and Zanardi says he doesn't see any problem. They don't think there's any problem, but they both know that they'll have to run a lap at speed to find out if any of the suspension had been damaged or moved that impact the handling of the car. Also, quick update on Michael Andretti. He has lost first gear.
Well, hopefully he won't need it, Gary. He has made his final pit stop. The PPG pace car is off. Mark Blundell heads down into turn one. He's got Christian Fittipaldi behind him. Fittipaldi runs in the 11th spot. The order is Blundell looking for Alex Zanardi. There he is in the red car. Fourth in the line. Michael Andretti runs third, minus first gear. Andre Ribeiro fourth, Scott Pruitt fifth, Mauricio Gugelmin sixth, having picked up 2 spots during that yellow flag pit stop. You ride with Andre Ribeiro in fourth.
See Michael Andretti, see the smoke coming off his tires. He's locked up a right front, got in there a little deep, turned sideways. Andre took a look at Zanardi's favorite spot, but Michael's not having any of that. A lot of times on the restart, some guys' tires come up quicker than others. They're better at bringing them in. You want to not give away a spot on that one first lap because your tires are a little cold.
And after a bunch of laps under yellow, it may be a little hard to get back into your rhythm around a track like this as well. Zanardi now third in line, having gotten around Juan Fangio. Here's Ribeiro down the inside of Michael Andretti.
Michael's going to try to come back on him, but he slid. So I'm correcting, he slid coming off of that concrete.
That puts Ribeiro up in third. Michael down in fourth. Michael bobbled slightly, and look at the difference it made coming out onto the straightaway.
Andre Ribeiro wants to get to that battle at the front as soon as possible and not lose too much ground. He can't afford to be making up ground. There's not that many laps left.
That new Reynard chassis has worked wonders for Andre Ribeiro's performance. There's Blundell, Christian Fittipaldi behind, then Alex Zanardi. It is Blundell and Zanardi who are racing.
Best thing that's happening to Blundell right now is Christian Fittipaldi, because he's not racing him for a spot, but he's holding off Zanardi. That gives Blundell a little bit of breathing room.
Let's get an update now on our race leader from Marty Reed.
Well, Mark Blundell, they gave him the green light to turn it up all the way. They know they have enough fuel. Now, the question we have, and we're trying to track this down, they're doing calculations in Scott Pruitt's camp. They're not quite sure they can go the distance. And remember, Andre Ribeiro stopped earlier than all of our contenders in the top 5. We're going to check on him as well.
15 laps remaining as you ride with Michael Andretti. Working the buttons on the steering wheel to control some of the car's functions as well as the radio. Here's a look at the relative positions of each of the top 3 cars. Blundell has done the fewest laps since his last fuel stop, so he will, in theory, have the most fuel on board and the greatest latitude to run flat out. Zanardi and Ribeiro have run more laps since they stopped for fuel.
Where Zanardi's very frustrated by being stuck behind Christian Fittipaldi. The good news for him is that Christian Fittipaldi's not really holding him up, and he's not losing that much ground to Blundell.
Despite enormous pressure, Mark Blundell has controlled this race from the start. We began with Bobby Rahal and pole sitter Dario Franchitti banging wheels in the first corner. Blundell slipped through into the lead, and he has held it pretty much ever since. Scott Pruitt runs in 5th. Mauricio Gugelmin just behind him in 6th. That's a battle for position between the orange car and the red and white one. There they stand with 14 laps remaining. We'll be back with more from the Molson Indy in Toronto. Don't go away. There is Pruitt in the bright orange and yellow car just behind the green and white of Parker Johnstone. We ride with Jimmy Vasser. Vasser runs behind Gugelmin. This is 5th, 6th, and 7th, nose to tail on Lakeshore Boulevard. Oh, and Gugelmin right up under Pruitt's rear wing. Parker Johnstone at the head of that group is in 12th and a lap down. Turn number 11 onto the start-finish straightaway. Vasser dropping back slightly from Gugelmin. See how he has worked his way forward from his starting spot to his current position. Marty Reed.
Well, we checked now with Andre Ribeiro's camp, and they gave us a little bit of a wink. They said we can go the distance, but they didn't sound real convincing. Remember, they stopped a couple of laps earlier than everybody else.
Meanwhile, in the Zanardi camp, he's just gotten that radio clearance that he wanted to hear. You're okay with fuel. Don't forget the button. We alluded to that at the start of the race. That's that button he hits on the wheel, gives him that little extra burst of rich fuel, full horsepower.
Saw Juan Fangio in the bright white All-American Racers car driving for Dan Gurney, telling the cars who have already lapped him to go by and continue their battle for position. With 11 laps to go. Let's check the position of leader Mark Blundell. A lot of clear track behind him now. There is Alex Zanardi in 2nd. Christian Fittipaldi runs a lap down behind Zanardi, that 3rd red car in line. There is Michael Andretti, minus 1st gear, running in 4th.
Of course, with no pit stops left to make, 1st gear is not an issue. You just hope that it doesn't do something else, any other damage in the box or any pieces floating around in there that can damage the gearbox.
Parker Johnstone there in green and white, able to run on the same pace, even though he is a lap down to cars running behind him. Things a little more complicated for Scott Pruitt right there. Mauricio Gugelmin and Jimmy Vasser.
From a driver's point of view, you really want to have no traffic in front of you if you're racing with 2 guys that are very strong that are right up your exhaust pipe.
10 laps to go now. Mark Blundell runs 3.2 seconds ahead of Alex Zanardi. There's Bobby Rahal. He is in 9th spot.
If everybody has been given the go-ahead that they've got enough fuel, right now everybody is racing as hard as they can to try to gain a spot, pick up some additional points. You've got a great battle going there with Scott Pruitt, Big Mo, Jimmy Vasser. They'd like to reverse some of those orders and pick up more points. Mark Blundell is pulled away from Alex Zanardi. What he wants to do is just keep running a good, steady pace, not make any mistakes, and keep that gap to Zanardi and go away with the 2nd win of the season and 2nd one for Pac West. Ribeiro, he's trying to close down on Zanardi, but he's got to be a pretty happy camper right now in 3rd spot, as the whole Tasman group's got to be a little bit pumped up. And Zanardi's in a good place to score points for the 2nd race in a row. He'd like to be having a shot at Mark Blundell, but I'm sure he'll take those 2nd place points.
Again, our pictures coming to us from CBC here in Canada. The day began with great hopes from this huge throng of Canadian fans. But right now, Greg Moore is out of the race. Paul Tracy runs 10th and Patrick Carpentier in 17th. This battle is getting tighter. Pruitt in orange, Gugelman in red and white, and Jimmy Vasser in the bright red car running behind Parker Johnstone.
When you're running in a group like this, with this few laps to go, one missed shift, one little mistake, and you're going to drop a couple of spots. So the pressure's really on Scott Pruitt here.
8 laps to go. Next time by for the race leader, Mark Blundell. What a remarkable turnaround in his career from all the problems last year. Homesick, living halfway around the world from his wife and 2 sons. Trying to make a name for himself in the PPG Kart World Series. Came out this year, won a race, won the closest race in the history of the series, and now hoping to take his 2nd win. What a difference a year makes for Mark Blundell, with experience in 4 different Formula One teams behind him. This is where he wants to race now.
Bob, the one gremlin we have to update is the gearbox. Remember, it slipped out twice on Mark Blundell. Well, I checked with the team. I said, has it happened again? He says no, and we're holding our breath.
Oh, you can bet they're holding their breath up and down the pit lane now. There'll be 7 laps to go next time by. 7 trips around this 1.7 mile circuit. We mentioned that one of the stories we're following, the Canadians. The points battle, Tracy with 109 right now. Zanardi would close up on Tracy into 2nd spot, moving around Greg Moore. Now these points as are of right now, and Michael Andretti would move from 4th into 3rd. Our all British front row, well, Mark Blundell is holding on in the lead after Dario Franchitti, our pole sitter, slid off the racetrack. And fuel management, well, we were able to pit late enough in the race that does not appear to be a factor with a half-dozen laps remaining. We'll be back. Tonight on ABC, outstanding all-family entertainment with Second Noah and America's Funniest Home Videos. Then Sybil Shepherd stars in part 1 of Telling Secrets, all tonight on ABC. Here in Toronto, Mark Blundell, Alex Zanardi, and Andre Ribeiro turning laps under a minute as you watch Michael Andretti. We expected our laps to go down at about a minute 1 per lap. But as we often see on street circuits, as the rubber builds up, the traction gets better, the fuel comes down, the drivers in their rhythm. These guys are clicking off near qualifying times.
Well, a lot of guys would have liked to have those qualifying times, but we see Zanardi just did a 59.2, which would have put him about 5th in qualifying. And look, he's closing down that gap. What he wants to do is put the pressure on Mark Blundell. If he can put the pressure on Blundell, maybe force a mistake.
5 laps to go. There you see the gaps at the line, but of course they will ebb and flow as the drivers make their way around. Hiro Matsushita on the right, the yellow helmet.
Mark really needed to get by there. I'm sorry, Bob, he really needed to get back there. That's going to give Zanardi a chance to close up. Mark, look at this, 2 corners. He's lost a lot of ground right there. He needs to get by him right here in this spot.
Oh, look at Zanardi eating up that lead for Mark Blundell as Blundell continues to follow Matsushita.
Oh, this is very critical.
Now Matsushita waves them by on the right side.
But both of them got by.
That's something that Alex Zanardi just excels at. When he's chasing a man and that man gets a hole in traffic, Zanardi is right on it.
And Mark needs to be very cool here, which he has shown all day. Not make any mistakes and just gradually try to stretch it out.
Bruce McCaw on the right, the car owner of the Pac West operation, watching his man Mark Blundell trying to hold up Alex Zanardi. 2 Reynards, both on Firestone tires, a Mercedes-Benz engine for Blundell, a Honda for Zanardi. We've seen so many dramatic finishes this year, including that classic at Portland, the quickest and closest 3-way finish in series history. Our average margin of victory through the first 10 rounds of the season 1.6 seconds, and it looks like we're cooking up another one here. There will be 3 laps to go next time by, and pit crews begin to climb over the wall to head out to trackside to welcome their men home when the checkered flag flies. 3 laps of this 1.7-mile circuit to go. There are your first and second place cars. Mark Blundell from England, Alex Zanardi from Italy. Oh, Zanardi sliding right up to our camera.
He's given it all it's worth, but Mark Blundell just did a 59.1, which would have put him about 4th quickest in qualifying, and this is on racetrack. Zanardi got in there a little deep, ran a little late there. He just got off just a little bit off the line.
There's Alex Ribeiro in the LCI-sponsored car getting by Hiro Matsushita, but he is now running about 6 seconds behind the lead battle. He has lost a lot of ground. Michael Andretti remains 4th, Scott Pruitt 5th, Mauricio Gugelmin 6th, Jimmy Vasser 7th, then Raul Boesel, Bobby Rahal, and Paul Tracy rounding out the top 10.
And see what we've seen all day. Every time Alex Zanardi gets close, Mark Blundell has just a little bit better car. He's able just to stretch it out. See, he's just stretching it out just a little bit, giving himself a cushion with these last couple of laps.
These guys are hot. Our 2 most recent winners in the PPG Kart World Series. Mark Blundell, the winner at Portland. Alex Zanardi, the winner a week ago in Cleveland. They will decide it between them.
Mark Blundell's lap that last time was a half a second quicker than Alex. That's just what he needs to do, nice and smooth.
There's Andre Ribeiro, still 3rd, but still trailing the lead battle. Here comes Michael Andretti, who may have something to say to Ribeiro before this is over.
He better say it quick.
Pruitt and Gugelmin, 5th and 6th, running nose to tail. There will be 1 lap to go next time by. Here comes Blundell. He's got slower traffic ahead, and Zanardi behind as the white flag waves. 1.7 miles to go. We've already seen this year when a driver takes his first victory. Greg Moore did it and then came right back and took his second. Brian Herta makes way for the race leaders. Zanardi closing up in red. The trickiest corner on the circuit right there, and Zanardi gets closer. I don't think he's close enough on this lap. Nope, this was Zanardi's passing corner. And now the track plays to Blundell's advantage. It narrows down with the marbles offline. Zanardi won't dare step out around him. Into turn number 8, sharp right-hander. Turn 9. Zanardi is there, but I don't think he has enough time. The checkered flag is in the hands of flagman Jim Swindell. Off the corner they come. To the line, Mark Blundell wins his 2nd race of the year. Pure joy for Bruce McCoy and the Pac West team. Unofficially 2nd, Alex Zanardi. Here comes Andre Ribeiro 3rd. Michael Andretti behind him in 4th. And credit that as perhaps a moral victory for Andre Ribeiro and Steve Horn's Tasman team, who have struggled this season with the Lola chassis. They have the Reynard, and they are competitive once again. As the 2 front runners congratulate one another, let's review Mark Blundell. At Detroit, leading with 2 corners to go, he ran out of fuel, allowing Greg Moore to sweep through to his 2nd straight win. But then in Portland, Blundell in the middle of a group of 3, closest finish in series history. He is now a 2-time winner. We'll be back to hear from our winner. Blundell takes his 2nd. It's going to be a joyous victory lane. Join us for it in just a moment.
Blundell, you get to the victory lane once again, the 2nd time, but such great pressure over those final laps. How aware of you of Zanardi, and how concerned were you?
I knew Alex was there. I knew John kept me informed over the radio whereabouts Alex was. I felt him a couple of times. We had a lot of problems out there with a couple of back markers, you know, people that we were lapping, and I'm just sorry that they didn't read the flags very well. And at one point, somebody tried to race me into the hairpin, nearly cost me the race. That's disappointing me, but you know, let's put that to the back of our minds and let's enjoy this win.
From the injuries and frustration of a year ago, it's been quite a ride.
We're coming along, you know, and it's great. It's fantastic for Motorola. It's fantastic for Pac West, Mercedes-Benz, Firestone. I'm enjoying it.
Second place, Alex Zanardi. You look pretty good considering the tough battle you were in. Take us through some of it.
Well, I had some problems through the race. I think everybody had, but no, the car was running excellent. We simply didn't have anything for Mark today. I have to congratulate myself to him, but anyway, it's a great result for us, for the championship, for the Target Chip Ganassi Racing, for all the boys that once again they did terrific.
I got to get in here about Greg Mork. What happened there?
Well, I simply went out with cold tires. He turned on me, and my car slid on his. I couldn't avoid the collision. He could have, if I would have given me a bit more room, but I'm sorry for him. I obviously didn't do it on purpose. If somebody said so, I think doesn't know much about racing.
Well, I think Greg will probably want to chat with you because he wasn't real happy, but you still, other than that, it was a great run. Congratulations.
I can understand that he was disappointed because he had the worst, but I didn't know what to do about it.
Here's a look at the final results of today's race. Mark Blundell, his second win. Alex Zanardi second, followed by Andre Ribeiro, Michael Andretti, Scott Pruitt, and Mauricio Gugelmin. As you look down through the results, second win of the career for Mark Blundell, seventh win for Firestone Tires this year, seventh win for Mercedes-Benz Engines, and the third time that the Indy Molson here in Toronto has been won flag to flag. Michael Andretti did it twice. Now Mark Blundell goes into the record books with his first flag-to-flag win in Toronto. Our next stop will be the wide open spaces of Michigan International Speedway. Be sure to join us for that next week. Paul Tracy remains in the point lead, but just by 3 over Alex Zanardi. Michael Andretti up into third. Greg Moore drops to fourth. Gilles de Ferran down to fifth, followed by Scott Pruitt. We will not let this race day in Toronto pass without recalling the tragic events of a year ago when a racing accident claimed the lives of 2 members of the PPG Kart World Series family. They are missed. They will always be remembered here in Toronto. And today we dedicate this program to the memory of course worker Gary Averin and that of driver Jeff Krosnoff.